Hello everyone, welcome to episode 5 of Bebop Mondays, the show in which we explore some really tasty bebop phrases which you can practice all week until it's time for Gypsy Jazz Fridays. And today we're going to take a look at one of the most quintessential jazz standards to learn and practice as a developing jazz musician, and that song is called All the Things You Are, coming right up. Before we get started, some announcements. I have a couple of festivals lined up throughout the world actually for next year, in which I will be teaching workshops and performing. And there's some of the festivals that have not been confirmed yet, but there's 2 that are confirmed, and I wanted to announce it in this video for the first time. There will be one in Crete, in Greece, Kreta, from June 4th to June 7th. And I will be teaching a violin workshop and a guitar workshop, and I will perform. There is a link to that camp in the description, and it's limited places. So if you want to join me there, please sign up soon. Then there will be a Gypsy Jazz retreat organized by guitar player Chris Quinn in the UK, and that will be, I believe, from October 16th to 18th. There will be a link also in the description for more details. And there I will be on staff as a violin teacher. And there's also guitar lessons with a great team of guitar teachers consisting of Paul Schaefer, Fabi Lavertin, John Wheatcroft, and of course Chris Quinn. So check it out, and hopefully I will see some of you at one of those camps. And there will be more festivals for sure, and I will announce them when everything is confirmed. So today I must have listened to 40 or more versions of All the Things You Are, searching for versions that I wanted to use as a inspiration for this lesson, for this video. And I found several versions by one of the great saxophone players of all time, Phil Woods, and he's playing some really tasty lines that make very effective use of bebop language and connect the chords in a very sophisticated way. So let's just take a look at the first line. So the first line is over the first 8 bars of All the Things You Are, which a lot of people seem to have trouble with connecting everything, because it's basically a 2-5-1 to A flat, but before that there's a bar of F minor, and then there is a strange 2-5-1 to C, you could say, because there's a D flat there and a D half diminished. And I have to say I found very few recordings where people were actually connecting those 8 bars, especially the first and second bar, the F minor and the B flat minor, seem to be disconnected. Even in the recordings I found of some really great players, like even Charlie Parker, is not really connecting those 2 chords. And I understand it, because it is like an extra chord that is not part of the 2-5-1. But in fact, because the song is in A flat, it's just a 6th chord, and that is just a substitute for the A flat. So you could just be playing A flat lines. You could just be playing 1 2-5-1, and that seems much easier to connect if you think about it. But I found a line by Phil Woods that is actually connecting the 8 bars. So let me show you what it sounds like. You can only see 4 bars on screen. There's 4 more bars, but I will play the whole thing. And of course, as always, you can download all these steps from my Patreon. There's a link in the description. So this line sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Super nice. First thing to say is all the slides. If you want to make the slides sound good within jazz lines, within bebop lines, you gotta not rush them. And to make that happen, you have to play them with a lot of care, right? You really have to play them, I don't want to say slowly, but you have to emphasize the slides. The word is deliberately. You have to play them deliberately. And so the next 8 bars of All the Things You Are the same, exact same chords, but it's just a 5th up or 4th down. So it starts with C minor. So you could just play the line here. 3, 4, 1. So same fingerings, and you put your first finger on the root of the first chord, and bam, there you have the line. It's not really necessary to understand what's happening in this line. A lot of people seem to have trouble connecting those 8 bars, and I knew I had it when I learned this song, back when I was only playing violin. And the way I solved it was just learning 3 lines that connected the 8 bars, and just play those lines over and over until I started understanding what was happening in those lines, and then I could vary it more and more, and now I can just improvise over those chords, and I don't even know how that happened. You know, it's just I played those lines so many times. So I would suggest doing the same thing with this line. One of the things that are nice to notice is that he's not playing really A flat 6, he's playing A flat 7 immediately, right? So he gets 4th bar, that's just A flat 7. So he's thinking A flat 7 because that would resolve to the D flat. So he's kind of playing 2, 5, not 1, but another 5, resolving to a D flat. And another thing to notice is the nice A flat minor on the G7, right? So you get A flat minor on top of G7 to make it an altered sound where there's a flat 9 and flat 13. It just sounds super nice. 3, 4, 1. So I'm going to play it on the backing track. Backing track is just on my channel. There's a link in the description. There's a link there to all my backing tracks as well, a playlist. I'm going to play it on the first 8 bars, then I'm going to play it on the next 8 bars, starting on C minor. Then there's a bridge I'll improvise, and then I can play it again on F minor, but only the first 6 bars, because after that the chords change. So that's how it sounds. This is how it sounds. Let's go to the next line. This is a line by piano player Mulco Miller. Most lines are by Phil Woods, but I have one by Mulco Miller. I have one by Charlie Parker also later. And this is another line which is really connecting those 8 bars. And he does this with the help of a diminished or octatonic scale. So let me play it for you. It sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, he's only playing 6 bars, right? Yeah, so he's connecting the first 6 bars. Still nice though. And then after this, you have to play this 2, 5, 1, 2, C major. It's 6 bars, but you can only see the first 3 because I cannot fit everything on one system. So I played it now without grace notes, right? So from the 3rd bar, I played. But actually, in the score, it says this. which is really nice effect, but it makes it much more difficult. On piano, it is not that difficult. So I would first practice it without the grace notes, and then later, when you feel comfortable, you can add them. They do add something. And then, of course, we can play the same thing on C minor. So let me play it on the backing track. Now we get a couple of 2-5-1s for the bridge. And this one is by Phil Woods. It's pretty challenging to play because it's fast, but the backing track is pretty slow. I did it on purpose so you can practice on it. He actually plays this on the second 2-5-1, the one to E major, but that's difficult to read. So I figured let's do, if you're reading notes, that is, for the tab doesn't matter. I read tab, but if you read notes, I thought it would be easier to put it in G, and yeah, I mean you have to practice them on both anyway. So let me play it slowly for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I would actually suggest when you practice this, and I practice it the same way, to skip the first note. That makes it much harder. Just start on the third beat with the C. 1, 2. And then realize the C is on the beat. So maybe give it a slight accent. And then this F sharp. 1, 2. But it's just uncomfortable. It's really difficult to play on guitar. It's a cool lick though, but very difficult to pull off. So then in E, it would be here. So skip the first two notes. 1, 2. I'm not sure I could actually play, if I can pull it off. Let me try it. That's probably the best I could do with it for now. It's just pretty difficult. I'm not sure I ever be able to play this in such a way that I'll be comfortable. But you could just practice some of the ideas, right? Like this phrase for... There's a great line for A minor. You could just play it in the 8th note. Or this line... just for D7. Probably you could just play this as the 2-5-1. You start on the third beat of the second bar. Let me see if that would sound. So I could just probably play that immediately in the first 8 bars, right? I could play it on the 2-5-1 to A flat, so then it would be here. Let's try that. Let's see how it sounds. Yeah, that works really great. So that's a good 2-5-1 right there. Next one is another fast line. Let's see if I can make this one. This is by Charlie Parker from I think it's from the recording called Bird of Paradise, which is basically just all the things you are without a theme. And yeah, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is actually not that difficult. I mean, that last bar is just major 7 arpeggios on G. It's mostly about the second bar. And the first bar, again, he places on the 2-5 to E, so then it would be here. You might say, oh, that's weird on F sharp minor 7, but maybe they're playing F sharp half diminished, or he's just thinking B7 the whole time. Let's play this. This is doable. And here we have the last line, I think, for this PDF, and this is on the last 8 bars. And the last 8 bars, it's the last 8 bars, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or last 7 bars actually. Yeah, or it's the last 8. I mean, the A flat at the end should be 2 bars, but there's 1 extra bar that he doesn't play that it's probably rest. So it is the last 8 bars. And in Gypsy Jazz, we would call these changes Christoph changes. And it's when we go to the 4th degree at the end, and then we get the minor variant of the 4th degree, or we get diminished, one of them, and then we go back to 1, and then we get a diminished chord, and 2-5-1. That's basically what's happening here. It's D flat, and then there's the minor chord. Then we get C minor, which is basically 1, right? It's a substitute for 1, so it could also be A flat, diminished chord, and 2-5-1. So if you're a Gypsy Jazz player, you've played over these changes a million times. But if you're a bebop player, it doesn't happen that often, so you might be puzzled. Now there's tricks to play them. I won't get into it, but you could basically play just 2 2-5-1s in a row, with the first one being with an altered dominant. I made a video about that, I think. But you could also learn some lines for Christoph changes, and that's what I did back in the day. I just learned a bunch of Christoph changes lines, just like the first 8 bars, and I just learned them. I played them all the time until I started seeing what was happening in those in that progression just by playing those lines over and over and hearing it. So this is a great line by Phil Woods that you could use for that purpose. And it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. One thing to note is that he's not playing B diminished, he's playing B minor. And you can do that because you get C minor actually in the chords, B diminished, B flat minor, but you can just make it chromatic. C minor, B minor, B flat minor. That's a useful strategy to use. If you want to play the diminished chord, you can either play a diminished arpeggio, but you could also just think G7 altered, which would be the same kind of function. So you would get C minor, G altered, and then 2-5-1. With this line again, 1, 2, 3. So let's play this. These lines are all pretty challenging, I think, but I'm going to practice them too this week. I think it's very useful to practice this, especially because most of them are saxophone lines, and they just feel different on the guitar than if you would practice guitar lines. And that makes it worthwhile, I think. And even if you won't remember these lines, which you probably won't, and I probably won't, it's just good practice to see if you can make these lines sound good, if you can make them swing, if you can fit them on the backing track, and you do that for a week. And then you just move on to something else, and it doesn't matter, I always say this, but it doesn't matter if you remember them. It's just about the work, and some of it you will remember. I promise. So that was it for this lesson. Friday, it's Gypsy Jazz Fridays. I'm going to stick with this song, and we're going to look at what Django is playing on All the Things You Are, and I think it's one of the nicest solos that has ever been played on this song. And if you had never heard it, it might surprise you because it's really, really good. See you on Friday, or maybe on another video this week, or I will see you next week on Bebop Mondays. If you are interested in the tabs for this video and for every video, and a lot of exclusive videos also with tab, check out my Patreon, and I will see you soon. Bye.